Host and colleague Paul Sweetie. This is Bloomberg Markets. This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. The Dow surging, rising more than 400 points. We'll hear from the Federal Reserve leader today as it releases minutes from last month's policy meeting. They'll offer insight into policymakers' deliberations as they voted to hold interest rates near zero. President Trump announced rules for a $19 billion coronavirus farm aid package. Farmers who suffered a 5% or greater price loss will be eligible for direct payments of as much as $250,000 per person. Oil right now, $32 a barrel. The oil market is in much better shape than it was a month ago. Output cuts have kicked in and pockets of demand have emerged. There was no repeat of April's plunge below zero when the West Texas Intermediate contract rolled over. And Spotify signed a deal with comedian and TV host Joe Rogan, gaining exclusive rights to his podcast. Signing Rogan is a win for the company, which has invested hundreds of millions of dollars in original podcasts over the past few years. Courtney Donahoe, Bloomberg Radio.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Bloomberg and Eaton Vance are proud to present a Boston Pop salute to our heroes. This Independence Day, the orchestra's 4th of July tradition continues. The program will feature guest artists, highlights from past fireworks displays, new music paying tribute to the heroes of the current health crisis, and honoring the memories of those we have lost. Watch and listen Saturday, July 4th, starting at 8 Eastern, exclusively on Bloomberg Television and right here on Bloomberg Radio. In-depth analysis, concise report.
This is an important update from the government about coronavirus. We all need to stay alert so we can control the virus and reduce the risk of infection. To stay alert, you must remain at home as much as possible. Work from home if you can. Limit your contact with other people. If you have to go out, keep your distance from others, 2 meters apart where possible. Continue to wash your hands regularly. Do not leave home if you or anyone in your household has symptoms. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
Picture in your mind a stylish Audi with striking LED headlights, sporty alloy wheels, and some of our most advanced features, including a 10-inch digital cockpit and smart assistant systems like lane departure warning. Picture what that Audi looks like. Now think smaller. The Audi A1. It's not a small car, it's a small Audi. Visit audi.co.uk. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik.
Thanks to National Lottery players, the Emerald Centre are now providing emergency food supplies and support for people in Bedfordshire like Alan. Thank you. And £600 million of National Lottery funding is on its way to thousands more local projects in England and across the UK during these exceptional times.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
The NHL is always on the ice with these awesome hockey podcasts on TuneIn. Get your goal with the Spittin' Chicklets podcast.
Brian Yandel, Keith Yandel, thanks for coming on. What's going on?
Nothing much. Glad to be here. You guys got some nice digs here.
We heard you took Southwest 2-stop flight to get out here.
Yeah, well, you know, I just...
Carve up the ice with NHL at the rink.
The other day I wrote a story. Artemi Panarin, Semyon Varlamov, Sergei Bobrovsky, they all helped arrange for the purchase of N95 masks to benefit hospitals in their respective markets. This is another one of those positive stories you're seeing.
Or create your own power play with Locked On NHL.
All these teams invested future assets to take a run at the Stanley Cup right now. Like, all of those teams would have a real serious gripe, like trading these multiple first-round picks to make a run at a cup. It's
you're right.
Discover these and more NHL podcasts right here on TuneIn. Hit the court anytime with these great NBA podcasts on TuneIn. The Low Post.
So what struck you about this potential head-to-head matchup? What did we learn now that Zion is involved and LeBron and Zion go at each other for the first time?
You know, I still think both teams have to figure out kind of who are their guys when they get into a fourth quarter. I think you saw that with both of them. There were some kind of odd moments.
The Ringer NBA Show.
Who ended up winning the thing. But I did watch for a little bit when it was DeAndre Ayton and Zach LaVine playing against each other. And then as the days went on, Devin Booker was involved. Tell me you've seen the clip of Devin Booker when I can't remember who his opponent was.
Or the Haber Show.
At the end, it's because I worked in the NBA in the front office, and you know, when I was 14 years old, my family moved back from Sudan to America. I went up high school here in New York
Find these and more NBA podcasts right here on TuneIn.
Live from the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Markets.
Coming up, we're going to have JetBlue Airways CEO Robin Hayes. He was on Bloomberg Television earlier today with Guy Johnson. We'll have his thoughts on the company's outlook and the airline landscape. Plus, we're going to take a look at the growing position of the private equity industry in healthcare. But first, let's go to Greg Jarrett of Bloomberg News for a Bloomberg Business Flash. Greg.
All stocks are back after yesterday's late session sell-off. We check the numbers every 15 minutes throughout the trading day. S&P 500's up 1.9%, up 56. Dow's up 1.8%, up 430. The Nasdaq's up 2.2%, up 203. The 10-year is down 630 seconds with a yield of 0.70%. West Texas Intermediate crude's up 3.5% at 33.10 per barrel. COMEX gold is up 0.4% at 17.51.90 an ounce. The dollar yen 107.37. The euro $1.994, and the British pound $1.2261. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. I'm Greg Jarrett.
You're listening to Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
We've talked a lot about the collapse in the airline industry. We are starting to see some signs of a resurgence in people traveling around. Earlier today, JetBlue Chief Executive Officer Robin Hayes spoke with Bloomberg's Guy Johnson, where he discussed the changing demand for flights and what he forecasts for the industry going forward. Let's take a listen.
Since the beginning of April, we've been bumping along the bottom. We're now bumping off the bottom. One of the things I look at every morning is the TSA data that shows how many people flew through the checkpoints the day before. And, as an industry now, we're seeing about 8 to 10% of what we would normally see. So we've definitely seen some small improvements. We think in June there's going to be more demand for flying from May. We're seeing that in some of our forward bookings. Again, we're very cautious. But we expect to fly our June schedule probably between 70 to 75% of what down of what we'd normally fly, whereas in May we were flying 85 to 90% down on what we would normally fly.
And what kind of traffic is it? Like, is it the kind of visiting friends and relatives kind of traffic? Is it leisure traffic? Is there any business travel in there?
Yes, well, there's still a lot of essential workers flying around, medical personnel, people in the distribution business, definitely some visiting friends and family, people returning back to the Northeast who left the Northeast just before this pandemic broke. So it's a real mix. And we're also seeing into the summer some small interest in vacation travel as well. We're talking to a number of sort of our vacation markets, particularly in the Caribbean, to understand better their opening plans.
You don't see a lot of business traffic, and you've certainly been trying to change that over the last couple of years. Is business the last to come back? Do you see business coming back in anything like the same way that it did before?
Yeah, I think business will come back more slowly. I think that we're all sort of finding things like this are worth a lot better than we thought. We're about 80% leisure, 20% business. I feel good about where JetBlue is. I mean, we have a largely domestic network. The international flights that we do have tend to be close to home. I still think there's going to be a concern for a while, people traveling too far from home. I think we're going to see some different quarantine rules get put in place around the world that's going to confuse people. So I think business travel will come back a little bit more slowly. I think probably on business routes where we may fly 8 to 10 a day, we'd be flying maybe 3 or 4 for a while until demand comes back.
What about transatlantic? You continue to say that it's going to happen in 2021.
Yes.
Is it now late 2021?
It's later 2021. We are still committed to do it. I mean, we think that actually by late 2021, demand between Europe and the US should be largely back to where it was. And we're going to have the same old problems of legacy airlines gouging people with very high fares. So we still see a great opportunity for us to come in and make significant price reductions.
When you look at what is happening with that transatlantic story, Gatwick, a number of airlines have withdrawn from Gatwick and are retrenching back to Heathrow. Certainly seeing that with the likes of Virgin. Virgin is under stress. Do you see the possibility of extra slots becoming available?
Yes, I mean, we've always said we see the path into more than one London airport, and I see an even wider and brighter path now than I did then.
What happens in Q4 if things don't get going again? If we haven't seen a pickup later this year, how do you react? How do you reposition the airline at that point?
So, I mean, we've always had a low-cost structure. We've always, I think, been very careful about how we plan for growth. We have a relatively simple fleet. As I said earlier, we have a network that is largely U.S. domestic, or the international we have tends to be Caribbean, Central, a little bit of Latin America. We don't have any wide-bodied airplanes. So we do believe that these are the businesses that will come back first. Having said that, I still think it's highly likely that when we get to October, we're going to be a smaller airline, a smaller industry, and we're going to attempt to do everything we can to manage that through voluntary means. JetBlue's never furloughed a crew member in our 20-year history. We're proud of that. We'd like to continue that. But we also recognize that we are going to be smaller. We've had great success already. About 14,000 of our 23,000 crew members have taken some form of voluntary time off. And that's really helped us get through this in a way that is sustainable.
That was JetBlue CEO Robin Hayes speaking earlier today with Bloomberg's Guy Johnson on Bloomberg Television. Really interesting, Lisa, here. I mean, the traffic's starting to slowly come back. We heard from Mr. Hayes about that, and he expects, I guess, a slow build for the remainder of this year into next year.
I'm looking right now at the Transportation Security Administration's checkpoint travel numbers for the recent past weeks versus the prior year, the same period. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's rising, but off of basically nothing. I mean, the traveler numbers are really meager. I'm looking right now, for example, on May 19th, that would be yesterday, 190,000 travelers, plus or minus, went through TSA checkpoints versus 2.3 million a year ago on the same day. And again, I mean, you've got to think we're getting up to the 3-day weekend. This typically has been a period where people would go on vacation and enjoy the weather, which is beautiful. How many people are flying? Are you?
No, absolutely not. And, you can just kind of track it. I like to track planes in the air. There's lots of cool apps for that. And the skies are just remarkably empty. Even in this airspace around here, which is some of the densest airspace on the planet, just, nobody flying. And that kind of goes to the TSA numbers. That goes to the data that Robert Hayes from JetBlue was just mentioning. They were down at the peak, down 90% of their schedule not running. So only running at about 10% capacity, starting to inch that up a little bit. But it's going to be interesting to see when consumers really want to get back on a plane.
I love that that's a hobby of yours. And it truly is. I mean, you said this before even the COVID-19 pandemic. You like tracking planes on apps. I love it.
I do. Yeah, I do. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great part of the world to do it in. I mean, we're kind of, anytime you look up, you see a plane around here, but not so much these days. So we'll have to see how that develops. Right now, let's head down to Washington, D.C. for world and national headlines with Martin DeCaro. Martin, what do you have for us?
Paul, President Trump is falsely accusing Michigan election officials of attempting statewide voter fraud. On the day he plans to visit the state to tour a Ford auto plant, Trump tweeted the state sent absentee ballots to millions of voters. Michigan mailed the applications for the ballots. The president threatened to hold up coronavirus relief money for Michigan. When the president does visit the Detroit area car plant, now repurposed to manufacture ventilators, it's unclear if he's going to wear a protective mask.
I don't know. I haven't even thought of it. It depends. I mean, in certain areas I would, in certain areas I don't. But I will certainly look at it.
Ford Motor Company has notified the White House masks are required in its plants. The White House says the president is tested for the coronavirus every day and he's okay. The U.S. pandemic death toll just surpassed 92,000 people, according to the Johns Hopkins tally. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is denying he recommended the firing of the department's Inspector General, Steve Linick, because he himself was being investigated.
There are claims that this was for retaliation, for some investigation that the Inspector General's office here was engaged in. It's patently false.
Pompeo declined to say why he wanted Linick out. Democrats have suggested the firing was tied to investigations into Pompeo's efforts to expedite arms sales to Saudi Arabia. A father and son charged in Japan with aiding the escape of ex-Nissan chief Carlos Ghosn were picked up in Massachusetts today. Michael and Peter Taylor are being held for possible extradition. Global news 24 hours a day on air and a quick take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Martin DeCaro.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then go to Babbel.com, download the app, and try it for free. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just go to Babbel.com and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or go to Babbel.com and try it for free. That's Babbel.com.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, makes innovation happen. NJIT faculty mentored Christoph Camacho when he was a student, helping him co-found a startup and patent a device that uses drone technology for reforestation and to collect valuable data for land management.
I founded Paratrees back in 2016, taking what I learned from my research at NJIT and migrating it to a startup. Our technology is to really enhance land management operations, so we work very closely with land management companies. So we have a drone that performs precision reforestation, and we do storm damage assessment, having access to drones that can collect data so it's much faster. And what is more important, we help them drive management decisions. NJIT has been there every step of the way, going full force with my company.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
The world's financial decision makers can...
This is a message from the government. There is new guidance to help businesses and employees who cannot work from home be COVID-19 secure at work. The advice will help you conduct a risk assessment, put social distancing measures in place, improve hygiene and cleaning in the workplace, and look after the well-being of your employees. Every workplace is different. Use the guidance to make your business COVID-19 secure. Access the support you need at gov.uk/working-safely. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
Where will 2020 take you? Somewhere where people care. About each other. About our planet. About creating a better world for everyone. And becoming the best versions of yourselves. Join a community of like-minded individuals at the University of Winchester. Make sure to accept your offer by the UCAS deadline and visit our website to find out more. See the bigger picture. Be the difference. Go to winchester.ac.uk.
Get your MLB fix with these great podcasts on TuneIn. Fill your seventh inning stretch with the Ringer MLB Show.
I just can't get over it. It's like, oh, well, Jeter Downs. Didn't realize he was a top. Like, my dad is drinking the Kool-Aid on this. He's like, of course. Mookie was going to leave. I'm like, what do you mean? You don't know that.
Slide into second with the Starting Nine podcast.
Nolan Arenado slides right into the top spot for a favorite baseball player. Active in the league right now. It is a pleasure to be sitting next to you, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
This is we've been waiting a long time for this. We actually, in terms of active
on the bases with the Statcast podcast.
Ways of going about it. I picked third, so in some ways it made it easier for me. Mike, just to go over the first couple of picks. Mike took Barry Bonds, who I think was kind of the obvious guy to take number one. Not only
catch these and more MLB podcasts right here on TuneIn.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
While he was gone, Al had some kind of vote to make him the managing. You remember he used to come up all the time in the Raiders game that he was the managing general partner. By the way, don't forget, there was a lot going on in Munich. But you know how tired that man was to come back and find out that Al Davis had strong-armed his team from him while he was gone?
Search The Right Time with Bomani Jones to listen.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Stay on top of everything happening in the pro wrestling universe with the Body Slamming podcasts on TuneIn. For passionate recaps of the most recent SmackDown to a pro wrestler's perspective on life and culture at large, search sports and scroll down to the world of wrestling to listen. Be part of the college sports conversation on TuneIn. Hear the latest storylines around SEC football with the Paul Feinbaum Show.
I distinctly remember when you were hired, and I must say most of us thought you were out of your mind. Giving up, I wouldn't call it a cush job because you were traveling across the country.
Get your college hoops fix with college basketball talk on NBC Sports.
Headed by Shabazz Napier, that also included Amita Brima, who is in and around the NBA ranks right now, and DeAndre Daniels, who was the 37th pick in the 2014 NBA draft. So my question to you is...
Or listen to the daily news from around the wide world of college football with College Football Live.
I would go with Utah. I think Utah is the better team. And I know I'm talking to an Oklahoma guy, but listen, and it may be recency bias having watched Utah last week and doing that game, but I just think they're a more complete football.
Discover these and more college sports podcasts right here on TuneIn.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Stocks have come back from yesterday's late session sell-off as investors focus on signs the American economy will continue to reopen, and some key retail earnings showed signs of resilience. Crude oil is added to its 4-day rally. We look at those numbers every 15 minutes throughout the trading day here on Bloomberg Radio. S&P is up 1.9%, up 56. The Dow's up 1.8%, up 428. And the Nasdaq's up 2.2%, up 201 now. The 10-year is down 430 seconds with a yield of 0.7%. West Texas Intermediate crude's up 3.8% at $33.17 a barrel, with COMEX gold up 0.4% at $17.5280 an ounce. The dollar yen 107.40. The euro $1.988. The British pound $1.2268. A Facebook rally has pushed shares of that social media company to a record today. Facebook was up as much as 6%, extending a winning streak to the 5th consecutive day. Let me take a look and see if I can tell you what Facebook's doing right now. It's currently up 5.9% at $229.69 per share. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. I'm Greg Jarrett.
You're listening to Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
In this pandemic era, there's been a growing focus on private equity's involvement in the healthcare and hospital sector in terms of its normal business model and how that affects the delivery of care. Joining us now is Heather Perlberg, a private equity reporter for Bloomberg, who wrote a story about some of the consequences of that. Heather, can you just start off by giving us a sense of how significantly private equity has invested in the healthcare space over the past few years?
Hi, yeah. I mean, private equity is
poured billions and billions of dollars into healthcare broadly. I mean, they're buying up physician staffing companies, hospitals. There's been lots of reporting about that. As far as medical practices go, that's been a little quieter, but estimates are around $10 billion just in that space.
So, Heather, when I first saw this, I said there's got to be a lot of conflicts of interest here. The private equity companies really looking to maximize returns. Often they do that by really pressuring revenues, cutting costs, that type of thing. But that necessarily isn't in the best interest of patient care. Is this a good idea or not?
A lot of doctors would tell you it's probably not a good marriage. It's not a good fit. For the most part, PE does what they do in other industries, and that can work spectacularly. In medicine, there's something particularly problematic when you're dealing with people's health and lives.
Although when you take a look at some of the investments, it's in very specialized areas that have been highly profitable, including dermatology, with a lot of cosmetically driven types of procedures driving profits. So you could say it's a business like any other. And I'm wondering how they have operated through this period of time as selective or selective surgeries have been prevented as people are prioritized for their COVID symptoms.
Yeah, that's a great question. And these guys are hurting. Revenue is down 20 to 80% at some of these practices. Offices have been shut down. I mean, in some cases, people stay open, but they're deemed not essential by a lot of government officials, and doctors individually are just making decisions not to stay open. And that'll pressure them.
All right. So when I think private equity, I think debt. Are the private equity companies loading these companies up with debt, and now they may face some challenges here given what's going on in the market right now?
Absolutely. They're saddled with pretty big debt loads. A lot of them, will get money from BDCs or other private lenders, and that's going to be trickier to pay off if money's not coming in. So they're going to have to figure out different ways out of this. Some of them are getting money from the CARES Act. But we'll probably see some more of these companies really struggle or go under. I guess on the other hand, there is a big opportunity for private equity and other investors who've been just kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting to invest when, there's distress in the market. And you could say doctors will be